Hey folks, Dr. Joe Esposito here. Hope everybody's having a wonderful day. And I'm going to try to make your day better because I know sometimes when folks listen to my shows, they walk away going, wow, this is like overwhelming stuff. I had no idea I was doing so much damage to my body. And then they digest it, so to speak. And then they go, okay, now I can do this. I get it. And thank you for that information every single day. And I love, folks, when you do this. I get emails, I get phone calls, I run into people, and I say, thank you for all the information you've given us because of blank. In fact, just before I went on, my one of my techs here at the studio, my board operator, we sat down and we talked about some supplements. And he was a former bodybuilder, and then he got really sick. He had diabetes. The doctor was like, this is really serious. You could die from this. And we chatted a little bit. I put him on a good diet, and he came back a couple of weeks later and says, my blood sugar is normal. Unbelievable what you've done for me. And then we talked about him wanting to work out. And I said, well, you can do the bad stuff like steroids, or you can do more healthy things. And I put him on a regimen of supplements. And I walk in the door. He says, I don't know how quickly this stuff works. He says, but I'm feeling great. I haven't pumped iron like this in years. My muscles, my skin was stretching. It felt so good. Thank you for doing that for me. So what I try to do constantly is impart what I know to you so that you can incorporate these things into your life. And today, we're going to talk about the dangers of indulging in simple carbohydrates, or what you would call it, sugar. Because so many people eat sugar not just every day, every meal. And a lot of you do. I know you do, because I see you in my practices. And I know what's happening. And I used to be you. I totally understand what it's like to eat sugar all day, every day. It's easy, it's quick, it's cheap, it gets you high. And so why wouldn't you eat it? Gosh, it's a great thing, man. I feel good when I eat it. It's everywhere. Well, let's talk about what happens, because one of the things I try to do with you is I try to impart logic, because it's so hard to argue. Well, it's not hard to argue with logic with some people. Sugarcane remains one of the world's leading crops. It's one of the biggest things we produce. The refined version is what you're eating. And it's interesting because if you were to eat enough sugarcane to get gosh, I had this stat somewhere. I have to look this up again. Was it 3 feet? Don't quote me on this. 3 feet of sugarcane to produce like a tablespoon of sugar of what you're eating. So in nature, if I were to give you a sugarcane and you chewed on it, it would be sweet, but you'd have to eat an awful lot to get what we take and concentrate and put in our foods every day. And that's where the problem comes in. People say, well, what about fruit juice? Whenever I do a show, if I have a call-in show, people will say, well, what about fruit juice? As soon as I start talking about sugar. Fruit juice, not a good idea because it's concentrated sugar. The whole apple has fiber in it. And the fiber slowly pushes the food through the colon, and you get a slow release of energy, a slow release of that sugar. And it has a bunch of vitamins, minerals, and nutrients that help you digest the sugar. And it's kind of funny. We've gotten to this point in our society where we're so politically correct that we don't, in the business, the word calorie really isn't used anymore. You know what's used? Energy. Now that sounds good, right? I'm eating 300 units of energy, woohoo, as opposed to 300 calories. And I can't believe that we've done this, that we've even dumbed down what we call a calorie and now call it energy. It's a calorie, folks. Call it what it is. And so, anyway, off my soapbox here. Sugar affects everything. It can affect things like metabolic syndrome. If you don't know what metabolic syndrome is, a lot of you have it and don't even know it. It's a grouping of things, and you can have several of these to be considered metabolic syndrome. Type 2 diabetes, obesity, cholesterol, belly fat. Sugar can lead to brain atrophy. I'm going to talk about that next, how your brain actually shrinks when you eat sugar. Now, I don't know about you, but I can't afford to have my brain shrink. I need my brain, and I don't want it shrinking, and yet you're doing it every single day. It can lead to cancer, fatty liver, substance addiction. I'm going to talk about that today, too. The number one drug. What do you think the number one abused drug is, in my opinion? Sugar. Absolutely. So let's talk about brain atrophy. Now, if you're just tuning in, it's your first time joining us, I'm Dr. Joe Esposito. I'm board certified in chiropractic. I'm board certified in orthopedics, pain management, double board certified in nutrition, BS in clinical nutrition. I'm a retired dietitian, award-winning author. This show is nationally syndicated, and I've been in practice over 32 years. So these credentials give me the right or the qualifications to teach you these things because I'm teaching you healthcare that really, really works. I've been doing this with my patients 6 and 7 days a week for 32 years, not counting my education, of course, when I went to school. So I see what works and I see what doesn't. But let me talk about brain atrophy. Recent study, American Academy of Neurology, I know you probably read that magazine all the time, argues that even within the upper limits of normal range of your blood sugar, which is about 110, if you look at blood sugar, 80 to 100, 110 is the high end. Blood sugar accounts for 6 to 10% of brain shrinkage in what's called the hippocampus and the amygdala. These are parts of the brain. These two parts of the brain are part of what's called the limbic system, or our emotional brain. They regulate what's called autonomic functions. Autonomic means you don't have control over it. As a chiropractor, I talk to my patients about this, that 10% of your nerves feel pain and 90% of your nerves don't feel pain. So you can have a pinched nerve or you can have an irritated nerve and not even know it because 90% of the nerves don't feel pain. And that's called the autonomic, or I always remember it as automatic nervous system. You can't control your blood vessels. You can't control your hair growing. You can't control your pancreas releasing insulin. That's called the autonomic nervous system. So sugar can adversely affect the autonomic nervous system because it's affecting the hippocampus and the amygdala. It affects your endocrine functions. That's your hormones. Your insulin, your testosterone, your estrogen, your progesterone, your pregnenolone, your DHEA, things you haven't even heard about yet. It can affect learning, focus, memory. Shrinkage in the amygdala and the hippocampus leads to things like depression, mood swings, rage, aggression, Alzheimer's, and other dementia-like diseases. I have a lot of patients come to me over the years, and they have anxiety issues. They have rage issues. They have bipolar issues. And so many times patients come and they say, Dr. Joe, we're at our wit's end. We don't know what else to do. The medications worked for a while. They stopped working. I'm not against medication, first of all. If you need them, take them. But they don't know what else to do. And then I sit down and I look at them. In 100% of the cases, this is what I find. There's a horrible diet, lots of sugar, and they have a digestive problem. In every case I've ever seen in 32 years, and I've seen tons of them, ADD, ADHD, anxiety, depression, bipolar, suicidal, can't sleep. The digestive system is linked in to the brain. Your stomach's job is to take proteins and break them into amino acids. Amino acids become neurotransmitters in your brain, like dopamine, serotonin, GABA, norepinephrine. And so these neurotransmitters have to get the raw materials to work. You get the raw materials from your stomach breaking down proteins. If you have acid reflux, heartburn, burping, gas, bloating, chances are you have the stomach pushed up against the diaphragm. As it gets worse, it's called a hiatal hernia. And we need to manually pull the stomach down away from the diaphragm. And if we can manually pull the stomach away from the diaphragm, now we actually are fixing the physical problem, not just treating the chemical problem. So when patients come to me, and usually it's parents bringing their children in, and sometimes children in their 20s and 30s, I've had so many parents, I can't tell you how many, cry in my office. And a lot of patients cry in our office because they say something that moves me too. They say, Dr. Joe, you've given us hope. I didn't think there was anything else we can do, and now you've told us that there's a lot we can do. Thank you for that. That's really exciting when you give somebody their lives back. But some people, when they're in rage and violence, it affects everyone around them. They can hurt other people. Had a woman come in the other day with her son, big, tall kid, probably 6'2", probably 250. And she said when he walked out of the room, she goes, I'm fearing for my own safety. Because when he goes nuts, he punches walls, I'm afraid he's going to get to me. And in most violent relationships, it does escalate. And so it's really exciting that we can help people like that. So we've got to get the brain working by cutting out the bad foods. Sugar and artificial sweetener, by the way, also affects the brain. But then there's a physical component. We need to massage or pull the stomach away from the diaphragm to stop that acid reflux and to start the stomach to breaking proteins into amino acids. The other thing we have to check is the spine. If the bones in the spine twist out of place, they pinch nerves. Now, as a chiropractor, my team of doctors and I, we put bones back in place all day, every day. But we also have to look at the fact that the nerves control organs. So if I have a stomach issue, I want to check my stomach itself, I want to straighten out my diet, and I want to check the nerve supply to the digestive system. So 3 things that are not being checked hardly ever when it comes to digestive problems. I've had a lot of doctors over the years send us patients and go, Dr. Joe, we've tried treating this patient. We don't know what to do with them. You guys take over from here. See what you can do and send them back to us when you're done. And we do. We always send the patients back. We don't steal patients. And so we try to get to the cause of the problem, not just treat the symptoms. So if you're sucking down sugar all day, every day, it can shrink the amygdala and the hippocampus, the parts of the brain, and it's going to affect all these other emotions. So it's not just the sugar itself, it's the sugar causing a chemical damage, causing physical damage, then causing a neurological damage. Insulin resistance, this is another biggie. Over 1/3 of Americans are affected by something called insulin resistance. Studies out recently show that in the next 3 to 5 years, 50% of Americans are going to be insulin resistant. Now, what the heck does that mean? Well, another word for it, type 2 diabetes. And this is contributed to excessive consumption of sugar and other refined carbohydrates. So when I say sugar, you're thinking white table sugar. I'm thinking breads, cookies, cakes, donuts, pastas. These are all white sugars. They break down into sugar. So you got to be careful about what you're putting in your body there. These foods trigger the pancreas to release something called insulin. Insulin's job is to take sugar, specifically glucose, out of the blood and bring it into the cells. That's your pancreas. Pancreas is that plural? Pancreas? I don't know. Your pancreas, its job is to make insulin and get the sugar into the cells. So you eat a lot of sugar. The pancreas releases a lot of insulin. And the insulin is trying to get the sugar into the cells, and eventually the cells can't take any more sugar. The cells say, if I let any more sugar in, it's going to gunk up the works. And so what happens is we have to do something about that. And what do we do about it? Well, the body says, what am I going to do with the sugar? It takes the sugar and it sends it into the liver and converts it into something called glycogen. Glycogen is where we store sugar, or glucose in this case, for use later on. Once all the glycogen stores are filled up, can't put any more in there, you keep eating sugar, the liver converts that into triglycerides, and triglycerides get stored as fat. This is why we have so much fat in this country. It's not eating too much fat. We used to talk about calories, and that's why I'm a little concerned about changing the word from calories to energy. It used to be calories were bad. Well, it's not so much that calories are bad anymore. It's that the energy, because it sounds good, is bad. But it's not only the amount of calories, it's the type of calories. So what does that mean? If I'm eating 100 calories worth of coconut oil or 100 calories worth of high fructose corn syrup, big difference. So we have to look at that and say, okay, what am I doing differently? I'm doing something wrong here because I'm eating less calories and still gaining weight, or I'm eating more calories and losing weight. So it's not the calories, it's the type of calories. So that's what we have to look at. So insulin resistance comes from too much sugar, and we've got to cut out the sugar. A recent study from Mount Sinai Journal of Medicine found insulin resistance to be the underlying cause of metabolic syndrome, a condition affecting 50 million Americans. Metabolic syndrome is a combination of health factors that includes high triglycerides, low good cholesterol, elevated blood pressure, and abdominal obesity. So we're going to have to talk a little bit more about this, what we're talking about, the insulin resistance, because it's so vital that you understand what this sugar is doing to you. It's actually killing you. When it comes to insulin resistance, it's not just what you're eating. You also have to look, we talked earlier, about the nervous system. Right around the middle of your back, around the 6th thoracic vertebrae, is a nerve that controls your pancreas. So now we can have a big issue because if you're pinching the nerve to the pancreas isn't working like it's supposed to. And if I pinch a nerve to any organ, the liver, the spleen, the kidneys, the gallbladder, they're not working properly. So what we need to do when it comes to healthcare is we need to incorporate this, well, not new concept, but new to orthodox or normal healthcare. I shouldn't say normal, regular healthcare. We have to incorporate the concept of making sure the nervous system is working properly. Because if you have a pinched nerve going to an organ, the organ cannot function the way it should. So we may be treating the organ when we're not opening up the nerve supply to the organ, so the organ can't respond properly to the treatment. Isn't that an interesting twist? If we incorporate getting the nervous system working properly, getting the digestive system working properly, and good nutrition into everyday healthcare, I promise you, we will change healthcare forever for the better. We will save a ton of money. You'll save money. Insurance companies will save money, so they'll make more money. Doctors can get paid what they're worth and not just filling out darn paperwork, because believe me, my staff, I have 6 doctors, we spend probably 30 to 40% of our day filling out paperwork. Isn't that crazy? Paperwork for what? We send it to an insurance company. Insurance company is going to say, we're only going to pay you for this much anyway. It's become such a scam. And so when it comes to healthcare, we need to get a normally functioning nervous system, normally functioning digestive system, and good nutrition. Now we have a plan. I call it Joe-Obamacare. Because now that Obamacare hopefully is done and over with, we can go to Joe-Obamacare, which is actually getting to the cause of the problem. Everybody's going to make more money. You're going to save more money. Everybody wins, nobody loses. I don't see a downside to getting to the cause of the healthcare problems. So, folks, if you have a healthcare problem, back pain, neck pain, shoulder pain, headaches, blurred vision, acid reflux, nutritional issues, my team of doctors and I would love the opportunity to be your doctors. So if you'd like to make an appointment to come see us, go to my website, drjoeesposito.com, or you can just Google Dr. Joe, #1 Dr. Joe in the world under Google. And you can set an appointment online, or you can give us a call, and we can get you set up. Now, there are 2 rules. If you make an appointment, please show up. For a while, everybody was being good. A couple of weeks ago, we had an issue where we had a couple of patients not show up. And when that happens, that messes up everybody's schedule. And more importantly, that slot could have been given to somebody else. And that's not fair. And number 2, I want you to be ready to make some changes in your life. I've had patients come to me for years and say, Doc, I want to come to you 2 years ago. I wasn't ready to make any changes. Now I am. So let's get started. Now, it may mean you might need chiropractic care. You might need us to work on your stomach. We may need to do a nutritional workup on you. We may recommend some supplements. I don't know that yet, but be ready to do something. I'm not asking you to do everything. Just be ready to do something. So if you want to make an appointment, drjoeesposito.com, or just Google Dr. Joe. We accept most major medical insurances, car accidents, sports injuries, Medicare. And I say this a lot. Almost every day a patient comes in our office, and I say, if you were ever in a car accident and the car was damaged, you were damaged. How often? Always. So if the car was damaged, you were damaged, you need to have us check you out, regardless of when the accident was, if it was yesterday or 50 years ago. Because every day that goes by, if the bones are out of alignment, they're wearing out, they're pinching nerves, affecting the nervous system that you feel pain, and the part of the nervous system that doesn't feel pain. You're sick and tired of being sick and tired? You're done suffering? Go to the website. Let's make an appointment, drjoeesposito.com. So we're talking today about sugar and basically simple carbohydrates, and that's also breads, cookies, cakes, donuts, and pastas. And insulin resistance is when the cells can no longer accept sugar or glucose as fuel, and then the sugar has to go back into the blood system. It's an acid. So when your body becomes slightly acidic, the body has to neutralize those acids, and the body uses calcium as its primary neutralizing agent. So your body is taking calcium out of into the blood to neutralize the sugar. Once all the calcium in the blood is used up, guess what the body goes to next? The bones. And so now it starts sucking calcium out of the bones to neutralize the acid in the blood, because your blood has to be neutral. It has to be slightly alkaline, right around 7.0 if you're looking at a pH scale. And if the blood is too far off from that, too acidic or even too alkaline, you'll die. And so the body has to do everything it can to keep that buffered. Now, I said earlier that the #1 drug that we use in this country is not heroin and cocaine and pot and prescription and over-the-counter drugs. It's sugar. A study published in National Center of Biotechnology Information, another magazine I'm sure you read regularly, supports the belief amongst healthcare practitioners like myself, so I love always being, people saying I'm right, about the addictive nature of sugar. And the journal explains that even sugar's intermittent use can lead to behavioral and neurochemical changes which mimic the effect of substance abuse. Depending on the level of sugar dependency, addiction can manifest 4 components. Let me see if you're in any one of these groups. Binging, withdrawal, craving, and cross-sensitization with drugs of abuse such as amphetamines and cocaine. So what happens is you're taking cocaine and you're eating a lot of sugar. It actually makes the cocaine react stronger. You're having a bigger sensitivity to the cocaine. It also increases hyperactivity and the intakes of other substances when you have cross-sensitization. Now, I've read study after study, well, I'm going to call them fake studies, that say there's no link whatsoever between sugar and children's behavior or adult behavior. Anybody ever hear about that? All right, I'll ask you, regardless of which side of the fence you're on, you eat a ton of sugar, see how you feel. Then I want you to go 2 weeks with no processed carbohydrates, no breads, cookies, cakes, donuts, pasta, sugar, soda, and then I want you to eat sugar again. You tell me you have absolutely no reaction to it. It's not true. The problem is that so many people are so strung out on sugar that when they eat sugar, it doesn't affect them because this is their norm. I want you to come off the sugar and then go back on it if you want to see how big effect this has on your body. You know, if you're always sick, you don't know what it's like to be well. I can say that. When I was a kid, I was sick all the time. I always had runny nose. I had sinus problems, digestive problems. And so Dr. Waltman, my doctor at the time, he's dead now, so I can talk about him, would give me antibiotics. Not his fault. At the time, that was the thing to do. You had a runny nose, you had a toenail fungus, you had, blinky eyes, whatever it was, they'd give you antibiotics. But what we found now is that antibiotic use over long term can destroy the bacteria in your colon. Bacteria communicate directly with your brain, and now we're affecting the nervous system. And so it took years for me to rebuild the colon once I finally understood what I had done. And, you know, it's been said, forgive them, for they know not what they do. It wasn't his fault. He was following protocol of the time. The new time now says don't use many antibiotics if you don't have to. Colds and flu, it's viral. Antibiotics don't work. Ear infections, viral. Antibiotics don't work. American Pediatric Association has come out with a statement saying don't use antibiotics on ear infections unless nothing else is working, because children with antibiotics and without antibiotics are having the same results, the same healing time. So now we're seeing sugar affecting the brain, which can stimulate what's called the nucleus accumbens, and that is the pleasure center in your brain, and it stimulates the dopamine receptor sites, which is a neurotransmitter that gives you pleasure, and you're eating sugar and you're getting high. Logic goes out the window. You've never heard my shows. Obviously, you can't say that to you because you've heard my shows. You're listening. And now suddenly we're saying, I just eat more sugar. I just want more sugar. I want more sugar. So getting high, not realizing the effect it's having on the dopamine system in your brain and how high you're really getting. And so we got to get you off that stuff as quickly as possible. Sometimes there's withdrawals. I've had people come off sugar and just lose their minds. Because remember, binging, withdrawal, these are components of addiction. And so then we have to wean them through. I give them a little stevia. I get them stevia sweetened soda, stevia in their tea. I don't recommend coffee, but stevia in their coffee if we're just going through the detox phase. And we can get them off. It takes about 3 or 4 days to get over your real bad addiction. And then it may take a while, but when I was a kid, I couldn't eat a cookie. I could eat a box of cookies, but I couldn't eat a cookie. Folks, got to go to a break. Going to be back. When we come back, I'm going to talk about how sugar is affecting your liver and your risk of cancer. If you'd like to make an appointment with us, I'm Dr. Joe Esposito, board-certified chiropractic, orthopedics, pain management, nutrition. We have offices in Marietta, Duluth, and Stockbridge. We would love to have you come see us. My team of doctors and I are waiting for you. If you want to make an appointment, go to my website, drjoeesposito.com, all one word, or just Google Dr. Joe with the number one Dr. Joe in the world, and we'll set you up a time to come see us. We accept most major medical insurances, car accidents, sports injuries, workers' comp injuries, Medicare. We want to be your doctors. We make it real easy to be a patient in our office, but you have to help us. If you come in, make your appointment, listen to what we say, and be ready to make some changes. So if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, if you're ready to get well, we're here for you, drjoeesposito.com, or just Google Dr. Joe with the number one Dr. Joe in the world. I also archive my radio shows there, so you have hundreds of hours of radio shows you could listen to. I videotape my live lectures. If you have never been to one of my live lectures, they're a lot of fun because some people are visual learners. And check my websites, check my schedule. I'd love to have you come out to my live lectures. And we videotape them, we put them on YouTube, so you can watch me on YouTube, go right to YouTube or just go through my website. We have a link to my YouTube channel. I want to do what it takes to help get you well and keep you well. We really want to be your doctors. Give us that opportunity. I think you'll be very happy. Folks, got to go to a break. Again, drjoeesposito.com. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back. Hey, folks, thanks for staying with me. I am Dr. Joe Esposito, and if you're just joining us, welcome. Glad you could be here. We're talking today about the dangers of indulging in simple carbohydrates. You know it as sugar. Now, when I say sugar, though, you think of table sugar, but we're also talking about breads, cookies, cakes, donuts, pastas, sodas. Sugar is everywhere. We eat about 156 pounds of sugar a year per person. Before 1900s, we ate about 3 or 5 pounds of sugar. Then we went up to about 10 to 50 pounds of sugar. Now we're at 156 pounds of sugar per person per year. That is insane. Now, I forgot to tell you this last time when we were talking earlier. How do you get over your cravings? I talked about just cutting it out, and that's tough because you crave the sugar. And I'm like everybody else. I'm Italian. I love my pastas. I love my breads, my Italian pastries. You Italians know what I'm talking about there. So what do? So what happens is your brain works very well when it gets lots of nutrients. And it releases the normal amount of neurotransmitters, and you're able to focus, you're able to think, you're able to have what you would call willpower. But most of us don't give the body enough nutrients for the brain to work properly. And so now the brain wants outside stimulus. It's like any other relationship. You and your brain have a relationship, and if the relationship is getting everything it needs from the relationship, it doesn't have to look elsewhere. But when your brain isn't getting everything it needs nutrition-wise, it starts to look elsewhere, and it says, I want something to get me high, baby. What can get me high? Sugar. Quickest, easiest, cheapest, legalest thing we have. Coffee's another one, too. That's a whole other show, though. And so what I did years ago when I was trying to get over my sugar addiction is I said, okay, I got to change my diet. I got to start eating better food. So I started eating more fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. But then somebody came to me years ago and said, what would you consider the world's best supplement? I thought, wow, that's a tough call because everybody has different needs. I take a handful of supplements every day, and I was talking about one of my coworkers here. I put him on different supplements because his goal was for bodybuilding and more energy and muscle strength. Some people have high blood pressure. Some people have digestive problems. But if I could create a general supplement, like a starting point for everybody, I said to that person, the thing that would change my life, I said, I would say if somebody could take fruits and vegetables and put them in a pill, that would be the ultimate supplement. And so I did. I created something called Dr. Joe's Essential Source. We take fruits and vegetables, juice them, take the water out at a very low temperature, and what's left is a powder. Then we add prebiotics, probiotics, digestive enzymes, complete multivitamin. And I found when I started taking Dr. Joe's Essential Source, my sugar cravings got better because I was giving my body what it needed. I was giving me and my brain, the relationship we have, everything it needed. Then I created something called Dr. Joe's Super Greens to alkalize the system because sugar is very acidic. Most people's foods are acidic, what I call the 7 deadly sins of nutrition: alcohol, meat, sugar, dairy, coffee, soda, and artificial sweetener. They're acidic. We have to neutralize the acid so the body works normally, and you do that with things like Dr. Joe's Super Greens, which is extremely alkalizing. So these are the 2 supplements I take every single day. Now, what brought this up is at the break, I grabbed Dr. Joe's Super Greens and Essential Source, which I take with me whenever I do a radio show or a lecture, and I take it at least once a day. Now, if I'm doing a radio show, if I'm going on a date, if I'm going out to a party, I'll take a second dose. If I didn't sleep well, I'll get a second dose because it really is, stuff's amazing. And so I mix it with coconut milk. You could use almond milk, water if you want. I don't recommend cow's milk because I don't recommend cow dairy products. And stuff's amazing. So if you want to get that, I think you should, because it's not only just going to help with sugar cravings, it's going to give you so much nutrients that your body probably has never had before. Your body's going to really thank you for it. And you can get that on the website, drjoeesposito.com, or just Google Dr. Joe. So we're talking today about sugar, and I had to throw in that because that's so important. And if you have real bad cravings, and the Super Greens and the Essential Source aren't quite enough for you, I would say add a half a teaspoon or a teaspoon of cinnamon to that, because cinnamon helps stabilize your blood sugar, and that works great. If you're still really tired, some people are extreme cases, I'd recommend getting some beet powder. Now, you can buy it in bulk. There's a store not too far from my office, a health food store that has it in bulk. It's cheaper, but most health food stores carry beet, B-E-E-T, beet powder. And the good part about the powder is it has the sugar taken out because beets are high in sugar. And you can take a half a teaspoon or a teaspoon of that and add it to it as well. And the beet powder has something in it called nitrates. Nitrates convert into nitric oxide, which opens up your blood vessels and helps with circulation, not only to your brain, but everywhere. Read between the lines, adults. Circulation everywhere. And that's really cool because you want all your body parts working the best they can. And as we get older, sometimes things don't work like they used to. Beet powder is a great way to increase circulation. And so that can help tremendously with your sugar cravings. There's another supplement. It's called Gymnema, and we carry it at our offices. And Gymnema is great for people that are in severe cases. They just can't beat the sugar cravings. I get them on a Gymnema supplement, Super Greens, Essential Source. I tell them to get some cinnamon and some beet powder. And when we got to really kick your butt when it comes to sugar, that's how I start you off. And then we can start cutting back from there. So I promised I was going to talk about how sugar affects cancer. The predominance of sugar in cancer cells there was a study in September 2013 from the University in Copenhagen, which found that sugar molecules, they are assisting in the growth of malignant cells by binding to them. There it is. If you learn nothing else from me, I want you to understand the sugar is bad on so many different levels. And now the studies, and this is not the only study from Copenhagen, there's studies all over the place, showing that the sugar can actually feed the cancer cells. And in fact, I had a patient not long ago, and he worked in a cancer center. And he says one of the things they do to find out where the tumors are is they'll take sugar and they'll hook on a radioactive isotope. They'll make the sugar radioactive. And this way they can trace it, is why they do that. And they inject the sugar into the body, and they follow it. And they said the sugar usually goes right to the cancer. The cancer cells just suck up sugar like crazy. And so if you have cancer, if you've had cancer, if you don't ever want to get cancer, one of the things you can do, not everything, but one of them, is you got to cut out the sugar. And if you have a genetic predisposition to cancer, maybe someone in your family has cancer, you might want to take note of that. Because cancer is I see more and more cases coming in, and I'm seeing a lot more juvenile cases coming into our offices. And I'm worried about that. Because I've been in practice long enough that I can see the trends. I see a trend in autism. When I was a kid, 1 in 6,000. Now 1 in 45 kids have autism. Yes, it's bad. Ooh, people have autism. Ooh, that's bad. Nobody's talking about what to do about it. I give you a whole lecture on autism. But one of the things, and not the main thing even for autism, is you got to cut that sugar out of the diet. Now, the problem is when kids are fussy or adults are fussy and they're hard to manage, give them what they want to shut them up for this moment in time. We've all done that. You're around kids, they're crying. Oh, what can I do to get this kid to stop crying? Well, what you're doing is you're making the problem worse. So giving them the sugar, we know can shrink the amygdala and the hypothalamus, which is parts of your emotional system, which can lead to things like anxiety and rage and depression, mood swings. So if you hear a story that says sugar has no effect on children or adult behavior, I will argue that to the nth degree. All right, fatty liver disease. Let's continue on here. Liver is responsible for digesting food and drink. Pretty much everything that goes into your body goes through your liver. It cleanses the blood, and it stores enzymes and glycogen for use later. Enzymes are going to be a big thing here. And this, I used to say that as you age, your enzyme levels drop, and I changed my mind on how to say that. What I say now is as your enzyme levels drop, you age. When you're a kid, you're producing a lot of enzymes. Your liver's producing enzymes. Your pancreas, your spit, saliva has enzymes in it. And enzymes do everything. They break food down. They reassemble food. I mean, what makes you alive? Why are you alive? Because an enzyme says, okay, you molecule of magnesium, molecule of calcium, molecule of iron, you guys all get together. And now we can build up DNA, and we have life. So the enzymes are the reason we're alive. Otherwise, all we are is a sack of chemicals. What makes this sack of chemicals move around and be alive, and what makes that chair sitting in front of me not alive? One of the things, the secret of life is enzymes. And as we get older, our enzyme levels drop. So what we need to do is fight it. And the one way you can fight it is making sure you're getting something raw in your diet at every meal. Now, when I say raw, broccoli, cucumbers, tomatoes, avocados, salad, I have something raw at every meal. And we talked earlier about super greens and essential source, not to beat a dead horse. But when I made the super greens and the essential source, I made sure they were made at a very low temperature so all the enzymes stayed active. Because anything above 110 degrees destroys enzymes. And most of us are eating food every single day above 110 degrees. Boiling water is 212. So I eat cooked food. I'm not a raw foodist, but I do have something raw at every meal. And the big thing I take every day is the super greens and the essential source. Aside from all the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients, digestive enzymes are in there as well. Prebiotics, probiotics, omega-3 fatty acids, dulse, or sea vegetables, which give you iodine. It's all in the super greens and the essential source. And so that's one way to get your enzymes, but I want you to have something raw at every meal. The enzymes are going to take the stress off the liver so the liver doesn't wear out and become fatty. Fruits and vegetables, great source of sugar, but they metabolize slowly. They have enzymes in them. And so if you're going to have a piece of fruit with X amount of sugar in it, I'm going to call it calories. I'm going to buck the system and not call it energy. And you drink soda with the same amount of calories, it's not going to be the same because it has the enzymes and the nutrients in it. And it has the fiber in it. That's why I'm not a fan of drinking fruit juice. If you want to have fresh fruit, it has the fiber and the enzymes and the vitamins in it. Fruit juices, certainly most of the ones I see in the store, have to be pasteurized. Why do you pasteurize it? Well, to kill off the bad bacteria. You're also killing off the enzymes. So we got to get enzymes into our life. Every day, I do nutritional evaluation on every patient that comes in our offices, regardless of which office it is. We have 3 offices. Regardless of which office it is, we can always do it over the phone. And if you're not in our area, folks, we're in the Atlanta area, we can always do a phone consultation with you to discuss nutrients and supplements if you need them. But every day I look at people's diets and they eat 100% cooked food. How many of you eat 100% cooked food? Raise your hands. A lot of you. How about even 80%? A lot of you. I had one of the guys, it was funny, one of the shows I was doing, he was my new board operator. And Johnny said to me, he says, "Doc, you're killing me here." He says, "My 3rd week working with you, you're killing me here. My whole diet is everything you say not to eat." And he says, I said, "What'd you have for dinner?" He goes, "Cheeseburger." I said, "Nothing in the cheeseburger is nutrition." He goes, "What about the tomato?" And I said, Johnny, you're telling me that one slice of tomato is your vegetable for the day? So he was right. It was a raw tomato. Can't argue with him. But I thought, come on, man, you got to be kidding me. So something raw at every meal is going to give you the enzymes which are going to take the stress off your liver. And what happens is when you inundate your liver with sugar, the excess sugars are then stored as fat. We talked about that earlier, gradually causing progressive problems such as fatty liver, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and more advanced stages of non-alcoholic conditions. And that can cause inflammation and scarring of the liver. Now, if you don't change your diet, diseases can eventually progress to cirrhosis and liver cancer. Now, when I went to school a couple hundred years ago, we were taught in gross dissection when we cut people open. First time we cut into cadavers. Then we try to guess what they died of. That was kind of one of the things we did. I was going to say the games we played. I guess it was. And if you peeled out a liver and it was all yellow and fatty, and you'd say, this person died of fatty liver, and the teacher would say, what caused it? And you would say, alcoholism, and you would get an A on that test. Guess what? It's not that way anymore. We're seeing fatty liver in kids as young as 5 and 6 years old now. So we used to think it was only alcoholism that caused fatty liver. Now with the advent of sugar and high fructose corn syrup, artificial sweeteners, chemicals, we're seeing it in children now. The good news about liver is this. It's the fastest healing organ in the body. I guess maybe your skin is a little faster. I don't know. I never looked at that. But anyway, of the organs, aside from the skin, it's the fastest healing organ. So when the liver is shutting down, we got to stop putting the bad stuff in, eat a lot of enzymes, raw foods, and in most cases, it reverses relatively quickly. Patients come in all the time with their blood work. We get them on a good diet. We get them under chiropractic care because you got to get the nerve supply working as well. We fix their digestive system. They go back for blood work. They come back in and they hand me the old and the new blood work and they go, Doc, my doctor's amazed. They've never seen anybody respond this quickly. And the answer I hear every single day is my doctor said, whatever you're doing, keep doing it because it's working. And then a lot of those doctors become referrers to my offices as well because they want their patients getting well. A lot of doctors, doctors' goal is to get you well. Most doctors, I'm sure some of them are scummy, but most doctors' goal is get you well, and they oftentimes don't know what to do. And so when you say, hey, why don't we try this? Most doctors are like, that's great. Let's refer over to Joe and let's see if we can get that well. So folks, if you'd like to come see us, we have offices in Marietta, Duluth, and Stockbridge. We would love to be your doctors. If you want to make an appointment, go to drjoeesposito.com or just Google Dr. Joe with the number one Dr. Joe in the world, and we'll set you up a time to come see us. If you make an appointment, make sure you show up and make sure you're ready to make some changes. I'm going to give you a myriad of things to do. Some people do everything. Most people do something. Few people do nothing. If you're not ready to make changes, don't make an appointment. I'm ready for you when you're ready to get well. Don't waste your time. Don't waste my time if you're not willing to make some changes. So the website, drjoeesposito.com. Google Dr. Joe with the number one Dr. Joe in the world. We accept most major medical insurances, car accidents, sports injuries, workers' comp. If the car was damaged and you were in the car, you were damaged 100% of the time. I don't care if it was yesterday or if it was 50 years ago. You are not stronger than a car. Your neck and spine are not stronger than a car. So if we can damage the car, you were damaged as well. So get to come see us. We take Medicare patients as well. A lot of our patients are just cash patients because they have such high deductibles. We can't charge you enough to meet many deductibles. I'd love to charge you enough to meet your deductible, but we can't because that's not how I run my businesses. We want to make sure we get it right. We give you the best opportunity. You have to be willing to make the commitment as well and let us work with you. So if you're ready to get well, sick and tired of being sick and tired, drjoeesposito.com or just Google Dr. Joe. Now, when it comes to things like fatty liver or other nutritional issues, every patient I see in my offices, we do a nutritional evaluation on. If you're not in the Atlanta area and you'd like to come see us, we can always do a phone consultation as well. So we're talking today about sugar and what it's causing, and we just got onto the fatty liver issues here. U.S. Department of Agriculture, Americans consume, as we said earlier, 156 pounds of sugar per person per year. Now, that figure is predicted to increase as manufacturers entice your appetites with added sugar, packaged foods, and drinks. And drinks actually account for about 80% of sugar consumption. So the easiest thing you can do, step one, here we go. Song by The Fray, right? Step one says we have to talk. I love that song. Anyway, by The Fray. And step one is cut out your sugary drinks. That's going to knock out 80% of your sugar. So that's sodas, coffees with sugar, tea with sugar, sweet tea, sports drinks, lemonades. Now, if you have to use something as a sweetener, you can use something called stevia. Stevia is a sweetener 300 times sweeter than sugar, 0 calories, 100% safe for diabetics, over 70 different nutrients in it. So if you have to do a sugar, I'm going to say, okay, you can do stevia. Had a guy call me up the other day. He says, Doc, I've cut out everything you said except my coffee. I said, okay, I'm willing to negotiate with you. I said, can you do organic coffee at least? He said, yes. I said, okay. He says, I don't like stevia in my coffee. I still like sugar. I said, try this. Half stevia. Now, stevia is very, very, very sweet, so be careful. Follow the directions because a fingernail full of pure stevia will sweeten a cup of coffee. Now, most stevia is cut with something called maltodextrin and other things, but if you can get pure stevia, which is what I use, fingernail full is all you need. And he cut to half stevia, half sugar. Week later, he called me back. He says, Doc, it's working great. Can I cut out the sugar altogether now? Well, yeah. And he did, and so he's okay. So we got him off the sugars then. So at least cut out your sugary drinks. Now, I was giving a lecture the other day to a vegetarian group. It was a big... It's so cool, by the way. I've been a vegan for 30 years. Years ago, salad and beans is pretty much what you ate. And now we have restaurants. Almost every restaurant caters now to a plant-based diet consumer. And so if I have a business meeting, I'll go to a place that I know I can get something that's plant-based. And if they eat meat, hey, that's their call. I don't care. But I love the fact that the trend is shifting. And there was this big, it was a festival. And I was invited to be one of the speakers there. And I remember years ago, you'd go and it'd be like 5 or 6 booths of people trying to sell tofu or something like that and a couple of speakers, and that was it. And now this was at this huge auditorium. Place was packed, sold out. I had to park like 5 blocks away and walk over. It was great. But I said something in the lecture, and a lot of people were taken back by this because these are a group of people who are vegetarians, and I said, sugar may not be vegetarian. And they looked at me and said, what do you mean? Many times white sugar, as it's being processed, they want to make it pretty and white for you. They run it through a filter, a carbon filter. And at times, that carbon filter is made of charred animal bones. So if you're a vegan or a vegetarians, by the way, will eat things like cheese and eggs. Vegans don't eat any animal products. I'm a vegan. And everybody got real quiet because a lot of the people that were there were selling cookies and cakes and donuts and breads, vegan, we got vegan cupcakes and we got vegan chocolate, and that's all well and good. It's still sugar, though. So I hated to burst everybody's bubble. If you're going to eat sugar, you better make sure it's a vegan sugar if you want to be a vegan. So that kind of took everybody back a little bit. But sugar's a toxin. Animal studies show sugar is 8 times more addictive than cocaine. What? Yeah. Consumer, like I said, 146 pounds of flour and 156 pounds of sugar every year. Now, flour converts into sugar. So I'm going to argue with that stat. I'm going to say add those two numbers together because the flour is still a grain which converts into the sugar. Our taste buds have been hijacked by such sweet foods that we've lost our ability to appreciate real food. This is one of the reasons artificial sweeteners, one of the many reasons, are so bad for you because you put this artificial sweetener in your body. The brain says, ooh, something sweet is coming. I'm going to get a rush of glucose, and I'm going to take that glucose and use it for my cells, and my cells are going to start using the glucose, and I'm going to be happy. Because that's how your body talks. Your body's a little strange there. But when you eat artificial sweetener, no glucose, no sugar comes in. So then the brain says, wait a minute, you're playing with me. I want sugar. So then you start craving sugar. So artificial sweeteners have been shown to actually cause you to crave sugar because you're not getting it. Your brain says, that's not what I wanted. And listen to your body. Your body's going to tell you what it wants. I want nutrients. I'm going to create hunger. You then throw alcohol, meat, sugar, dairy, coffee, soda, and artificial sweetener down your throat, and the brain says, that's not what I wanted. I wanted nutrients. So then you get hungry again. When you start giving the body the nutrients that it needs, you eat a lot less food. And boy, your food bills will drop. If you do nothing else for your health, change your diet to save a ton of money. If nothing else, you'll be amazed how much money you save. My food bill is ridiculously small because I eat a plant-based diet. It's real simple. I had a friend of mine from Canada come in the other day, big mountain of a man. And this guy can eat. God bless him, as my mother would say. God bless him. That boy could eat. And I made him, I have a book, by the way. My first book is called Eating Right for the Health of It. And I pulled one of my recipes out of my book, and he's Italian. So I made eggplant, like a Parmesan type thing. And I made a cheese filling made with all plants. And I put a vegan cheese on top, and I made a marinara sauce. And he ate this. He goes, come on. He says, this is amazing. This is better than any Italian food I've ever had in any restaurant. He says, this is restaurant quality. This can't be plant-based. I said it is. He was thrilled. He says, I could eat like this. I didn't know that it could taste that good. So my first book, called Eating Right for the Health of It, first half of the book tells you how to change your diet. Second half of the book is over 200 recipes, and that's in there. It's under the baked macaroni recipe, by the way. It's the filling for the baked macaroni, and I just put it between some eggplant. My second book, called Prescription for Extreme Health, is an excellent guideline. It gives you step-by-step guide on what to do to get well. So it's a lot like my radio shows in book form. And they're both available on my website, drjoeesposito.com. The Super Greens, the Essential Source, we talked about them earlier. Absolutely the minimum amount of nutrients you should be getting every day. Those are on my website as well. Relatively inexpensive for what you're getting. You're getting like 10 servings of raw fruits and vegetables, prebiotics, probiotics, digestive enzymes, complete multivitamins, alkalizing the body, omega-3 fatty acids. Really, really cheap for what you're getting. And do it for a month. I think you'll be blown away, as most people are. And they'll say, wow, this stuff is amazing. And every day, I love it. People stop me in the grocery stores or I'm at a party or something. I got your Super Greens and Essential Source. Doc, unbelievable. Thank you. Don't ever stop making that stuff. So that's on the website, drjoeesposito.com. If you want to come see us as a patient, again, I'm board certified in chiropractic, orthopedics, nutrition. If you'd like to come see us, go to my website, drjoeesposito.com. You can set up a time to come see us. We have offices in Marietta, Duluth, and Stockbridge. We try to see most of our new patients in Marietta because it's just the central place, but we can arrange other things if we have to. Go to the website, make an appointment for you, your family, your friends, and your kids. Because children, if they're straight, their spines grow straight. If they're crooked, they grow crooked. And that's why if I ever become Grand Poobah of the universe, I'm going to make sure that chiropractic care is just part of this standard healthcare practice in this country and around the world, because it's going to save a ton of money. It's probably going to save lives, and I think you're going to be thrilled with the results, as most of our patients are, if you do what we say. So the website, drjoeesposito.com. We accept most major medical insurances, car accidents, sports injuries. Give us the opportunity to be your doctor. I think you're going to be really happy with that. Folks, thanks for listening. Tell your friends about the show. Catch you next time.